a very special episode of VSW podcast. Today we got a very special person in the house, the one and only Baron Hush. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you for having me. So impromptu, but just so fucking perfect to be here.
Yeah, and I see you at the shows. If I don't, I see you on the footage. I see you on Facebook. I see you a lot of Limitless. I'm a big Limitless fan. Randy Carver has just captured my heart for wrestling. And I'll take the trek up there. I'm from Mass, but I like to go up there and when I can get up there. And
right.
It's such a different scene. We in Mass, all of New England, we're blessed, right? We have a lot of great wrestling. You've known that better than anybody. You've seen MJF walk through halls. You've seen these guys. Sure. But I feel like in Mass itself, we're a little congested. So you got a lot of shows running like every week, maybe 3 or 4. Where Maine, they're running, but they're like Maine's so much bigger. So it's like every show is like 3 or 4 hour difference from like.
Correct.
So you get different crowds. So when Maine runs, like I said, it's a different atmosphere. It's a totally different experience. Nothing like it. How long you been a wrestling fan for?
I've been a wrestling fan ever since I was 3 years old. And a lot of the times when it came to wrestling, the thing that really got me hooked on just about damn near everything in my life was video games. Like whenever the first Raw video game for Super NES came out, I watched a couple things here and there with my uncle prior to that. Didn't really get into it, didn't really know anybody. But once I started playing the video games, that's when I started knowing everybody. Then I just caught a couple shows here and there, and I just thought, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Just as a kid, my first wrestling show was when I turned about 8. When I saw it live, and then ever since then, boom, it's just been a big part of my life.
No, definitely. And those games they did for me too, play a big important role. I remember being very amped. The SNES system was just, game changing as it, obviously it was much different than
absolutely.
And it had better music. It had finishing moves. The last wrestling game I had for Nintendo was like Steel Cage Challenge, and it's a terrible game. But I remember seeing Royal Rumble come out for, SNES, and it had people like Yokozuna. And I was just amped for it. And even before I had a Super Nintendo, you used to be able to rent the systems for Blockbuster. So I remember
or when Home Vision was still around, who remembers that?
Yeah. So you could rent the whole system for 3 or 4 days. So I rented the Super Nintendo. I rented the game, and I just locked myself up and just played it until I couldn't win any other way. And but it was things like that kept the wrestling going. And then definitely, you started to learn about these guys. Now you want to see them on TV and know their movesets. And obviously the game's even evolved even better. As we got look at what just came out now. It's insane how much it's evolved over time.
Indeed. Yeah. And it's funny too. A lot of people will forget that wrestling didn't really get big with the video games, even during that time too. But when WWF the arcade came out to make it more of a one-on-one fighting game, and then some, that's when I think a lot of gamers saw it come to light and then wanted to see the shows live. And,
yeah,
that's just at least from my generation growing up as a kid and shit.
Yeah, you're you seem around in the same age range as me and just in that generation. Right. So Mortal Kombat was there, and those were your premier fighting games. Street Fighter, Tekken,
all about them.
Those were your fighting games. Wrestling games were more on a sports game level. You'd play, but it would take time. All of a sudden, they dropped that WrestleMania arcade game, and you're having matches within 2 minutes. You're seeing, crazy finishes, and now, like you said, the gamers are getting to mash buttons and do combos and finishes, and it had that Mortal Kombat flair to it.
Right.
And they ran with that for a little bit, kind of that style, getting away from the realistic, and and then we would see something like Raw versus SmackDown, but at that point, I started to jump around a bit. When PlayStation dropped, it was weird. I was really into Raw when that came out. Had a really small roster thinking about it, but it
Mm-hmm.
had two awesome things. It had a lot of unlockable characters, which was nice at the time because you didn't have to pay for those. You didn't have to
Yeah,
pay for
bring back the
unlockables.
unlockables for God's sakes. Damn.
And it had an unbelievable creator mode that allowed, at that point, the internet just started like raring. So people were putting all these creations on websites, and you could just go in there and dial in. You could make like anybody. Like I was making Dennis Rodman, NWO, all these guys. But
I
then,
remember
I
when I
got
started making rappers on No Mercy. That was my jam.
yeah. And I remember that internet using it for that, just strictly for that. Actually, like looking up
Mm-hmm.
WWE creator wrestlers, that and downloading their songs. That was really big for me. Getting theme music.
Oh yeah, theme music was definitely my thing. I when the friggin' mixes came out for WWF, I'm just like, I want that shit. I mean, the only way I'm like hearing a full version of that uninterrupted by commentary or crowd is if I just catch a commercial of it or download a video that gives me a virus like back on dial-up internet or what have you,
Yeah. I mean, the options were just so limited at the point. Like,
I know.
you could either like you said, you could record it off the TV if you really liked it, but you would have commentary over. You're going to have crowd interference and noise. WWE didn't really release records. They released, I think, one that had a bunch of wrestlers singing, had like Mean Gene Okerlund, a bunch of guys, but not the music. When those music albums dropped, it was huge because I mean, I was big into figures, and I'll still admit I love playing with my wrestling figures. I mean, Hasbro was awesome, but you'd have these nice entrances, but no music. So when the CDs would come out, and you could play the music, it was kind of cool to make these little entrances come to life.
Oh my god.
And it would even go right in. The Attitude Era had some great music, and they kept pumping out those CDs, volume 1, 2, 3, 4. And you hear the different variations of The Undertaker and Austin's change up and The Rock. Even The Rock's song like changed throughout time.
Oh, they all did. They really did. Everyone throughout like the cusp of like the early 90s that got into the Attitude Era like changed like every like 2 to 3 years or so. And that's one thing that people fail to realize is the evolution of it, if they really, even if you do have an ear for it or not.
No, and like I feel like the music in general for wrestling in itself is very underrated. Like a lot of time, effort, and creativity goes in, and a lot of those songs are really decent music. Like outside of what they're used for, they're multi-purpose songs. You could do so much, especially even some of the earlier just just straight theme music that they own, that they've created.
I know.
Songs like Finn Balor's song. That's powerful music to make.
Right.
And it's not easy.
Or if you really want to go back, like, why hasn't Papa Shango's theme music been used for like more shit? Like it could have been made for like a backstory, like during like Legends of the Hidden Temple or something, let alone a horror movie. Like there's so much versatility to it than just the entrance music itself, and people fail to realize that.
You know what I think it is, though? A lot of it is Vince McMahon himself. He was a genius in licensing, and anything that came through his name had a trademark. And you know what? Once you own it, you ain't using it unless I say use it. And as greedy as it sounds, as monopolizing as it sounds, it's also a smart business trade. I mean, he made it so he owned his own world.
I mean, I agree to an extent, but at the same token, find some way to use that music in a way that may seem suitable. You might open up another market too. That
would definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some tracks on there. Like honestly, I could take the Brood song and make a nasty rhyme over it and release it, and it would totally be something decent. But like there's so many things that are very versatile in the music that they've made. They should redo something with it. Besides just for video games and such. But yeah, that's all like a hidden kind of lost thing people don't think about when they think about wrestling. There's a lot that goes into it. That goes into the music, the intros. Back when we were kids, these wrestlers would have intro videos. Like when the Titantron first dropped, it was like amped up because we never saw nothing like that.
No, you didn't. Nothing at all like that.
And some of them were funny, some of them were kind of scary. They were crazy. I remember Val Venus's. I was
just about to say Val Venus. Oh my god.
like the hot dogs would pop up, and I just started laughing.
The
'Cause, I mean, I
drill
was right
bit,
at
all
that
that
age.
shit, man.
I was right. Like wrestling followed me from childhood, then it got cartoonish, and then all of a sudden I
Right.
became a teenager, and it like changed real quick. And I'm like, this stuff's funny.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, wrestling's been always just kind of there. It's something that I think is just it's different. Sports is sports, and I love sports. I love football,
Sure.
basketball, baseball. But for me, any which way, that sport isn't, I can go to a game or watch a game. It doesn't really escape me. I'm still in the real world watching that. When I go to a wrestling show or watch wrestling for the 2 to 3 hours, I'm in their world.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
what happens in there, it's its own universe, and it's cool like that. It's a great escape. I did take away some time, after I got a little bit older. I stopped watching wrestling.
Yeah, me
Got
too.
busy. Life got busy, and honestly, I'll be honest, and I'll say it, to anybody, the PG era of wrestling was just very dull
Oh
to
my
me.
God.
I did not like it.
No, not at all. Me neither.
And there was some great characters, but again, it just for me it was boring. So I didn't watch it. And I would watch, like I would go back sometimes, watch old Royal Rumbles and reminisce and stuff, but I just didn't watch TV wrestling for the longest time until around 2017ish. I would say, me and a
That would
friend
be
were.
about right for me to give or take.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people got back into it because honestly, and Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was a huge
Oh, for
influence.
sure. For sure.
His storylines grabbed people's attention that hadn't watched wrestling in 20 years. I had high school kids hitting me up saying, "Hey, what's going to happen with Bray Wyatt? What do you think he's
Yeah.
going to do in the Fun Fly Fun House? What's going to happen?" And those storylines are just dragging everybody in. When
Right.
did you And that was about the same time though. Before I started watching TV, I walked into an indie show. When
Right.
did you start getting into the indie scene?
To tell you the honest to God truth, like mid 2022, and it sucks in a way because at the time when Limitless was in Westbrook, I was living in Westbrook too, but I was more focused on going to the local metal shows, which is something I'm a huge part of still. But yeah, the first show that I was ever at was the one that Gangrel made an appearance at about 2 years ago.
Okay.
And how I got into that is Chris Cates of Voodoo Media was just like, hey, you got to come to these shows. I'm like, I don't know, man. I mean, I just kind of had a falling off with wrestling ever since WWE butchered ECW and left it to die.
Yeah. I mean, that's
And
how I
it's
felt.
just like I never really been interested into an event. I won a free ticket to one WWE show after that, where the same year Roman Reigns beat The Undertaker. It's just like, what's the fucking point? But yeah, when I went to that Limitless events, like I cannot believe this is my first fucking Limitless show. Now,
Yeah, I mean, that's how I felt. I didn't get into Limitless. I had tickets to their show right before the world shut down. It was supposed to be Anthony Green versus Chris Statlander for the title. I
oh my
had my
god,
ticket ready to go. The world shuts down. I'm fucking just like gutted. And it
oh,
wouldn't be for another whole year and a half until I could get to, Maine to their opening show. But I was a late bloomer and all that. I didn't start watching indie wrestling until around, in 2017, like I said, me and my friend were doing comedy and different videos, viral, YouTube, having fun. And I went across some old wrestling, content, Macho Man doing promos. And his promos were always over the top. He was one of the top promo workers. I don't know if
mm-hmm.
it was, him, the drugs, the combination, but it was wild. It was wild. And I was showing my friend that he's like, we need this energy. How can we harness it? And then he was like, this wrestling shit's fun. I said, it can be. Wrestling's very subjective.
Sure.
It's humor. It can be serious. It can be whatever you want it to be. I've seen it in all ways. I've seen death matches and I've seen, comedy core. I've seen both. And so we started to try to work something. And we, I did research. And then part of that was going to shows. And I was surprised when I walked through the doors, even local shows. I was surprised to see that these, guys and girls had names and they had characters and they had personalities. Because when I went to an indie show as a kid, it was like a fundraiser. the cops would be like, if you spend so much, we'll give you wrestling tickets. And, I'd go and there'd be a bunch of nobodies. And then there'd be like 3 WWE guys, Honky Tonk Man, Warlord, and Tito Santana. And, they'd sign autographs, and everybody else, I don't know who they are. They're not Hulk Hogan. It's not who I'm watching on TV. But, fast forward, all these guys were TV ready in my eyes. So I wanted to do the podcast, get eyes and ears on the scene, because the scene just doesn't get enough attention. Some shows do. IWTV is a great, great platform. But if your show's not on there, how do you get your name out there? How do you get beyond local towns? How do you get beyond local cities? Through fans. Fans do that. Exactly. Fans talk about it. Fans talk about wrestling. So I started to hear fans tell me about Maine. Because I was going to Beyond at the time. Beyond's kind of a little bit closer, and I feel Beyond and Limitless is like the top 2-tier brands in New England. They have some of the greatest wrestlers walking through. They have the high-profile matches: Chris Statlander, Orange Cassidy, all these TV wrestlers. So I was hanging around Beyond, and I started, hey, you got to go check out Limitless too, up in Maine. And I started to do some research, and then again, like I said, the pandemic hit, and it was devastating as a wrestling fan.
Oh my God!
In this area, because there was no wrestling, there was nothing going on. All of our shows canceled, and I was friends at this point with a lot of the wrestlers, and on social media, and I was they were heartbroken. They're not working every weekend. They're not making that extra income.
Right.
Some of them, that's good money. You start selling merch and you get on a roll. That's extra good money.
Hell yeah, I know what that's all about.
Yeah, I mean, you sell merch, you do things. Like you said, you're in the band scene as well, which is very similar to wrestling, show business.
Yeah, we've been trying to get that intertwined with Limitless for the longest time.
I've seen great shows where music has been intertwined. Not for nothing. I mean, during the pandemic, there was, as time started to, come on, some of these places started hosting shows that had schools. Limitless being one of them. We got the Road, and we got Pandemic at the Dojo, and a lot of places would follow suit, and we also had Masterclass and all these great platforms on a weekly basis. And then other shows started happening. And one of them I did see, it was just straight pro wrestling and classical music, no commentary, no nothing.
Nice.
Had like Alec Price on there and everything. It was really cool.
Wow, that's a new one. I haven't heard that one.
I like different.
I do too.
I'm a big fan of Kill City Cup because it's different. If you haven't checked that out, it's a free wrestling movie on YouTube. It's got Brian Cage in it. Jimmy Jacobs. It's got an unbelievable cast. It's only about an hour running. It's fun.
I heard about that. Never got to the point of checking that out.
Actually, Randy Carver does the commentary, which makes it even more funnier.
Get the fuck out of here! Wow.
Yeah, it's funny, and like I said, Luke Robert, you know him, with Conor Murphy and all those guys. They wrestle, seeing them in different lights and aspects. It's cool, and that's what I'm a fan of. Recently is seeing wrestlers in different aspects. I'm a big fan of that.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Rad Pro, because they take what we think of as these guys and girls, and they make them into somebody else. It's fun. But yeah, Limitless, like I said, when I finally got there, I was like, I walked through the door with my friend. I was like, wow, this feels like home. That crowd out there, that's something unreal. Most wrestling shows, you got like a rowdy crowd or an unfriendly crowd, or maybe there's even a cliquey crowd where people are just within themselves. You guys up there are the most inviting crowd. You're like shaking hands.
There is nothing but love in a Limitless crowd and locker room. Nothing but love.
It was mind blowing. Like, it was like, wow.
That energy, once you enter the arena, you just feel it right then and there.
Nobody's there to shit on the product. Nobody's there to not support it. It's wild because unfortunately in this industry, you do get a lot of negativity, and there is people that go to shows just to shit because negativity on social media draws. So if we can find out somebody's faults and something's faults, well, hey, that's, botchamania. It takes off, right?
Yeah.
But I don't believe in all the negativity. I like to just focus on positivity. And when, like I said,
for the most part,
at Limitless.
Yeah, and that's the thing about like everything that I do. The only time And this is something that I just look at in life in general, just overall, and especially as of recently. Anytime that something negative needs to be brought to attention is when it is like a public service announcement or a danger that needs to be known about. Other than that, let the show go on.
Yeah, most definitely. The only negative things now that I want to see about wrestling is, unfortunately, is if there is somebody that shouldn't be in a locker room or shouldn't be running a show.
Mm-hmm.
This way people need to be aware of that. People need to be knowing who they're booking and why they shouldn't book certain people, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen a lot of shit in 2020. It opened a lot of people's eyes.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was devastating in a lot of ways because there was people that, I supported and I had no clue what they were about. I remember the day that they not for nothing, the day that the whole thing about Joey Ryan came out, the next day, an autograph that I had ordered from him came in the mail like 2 months late. I'm like, what the fuck? Rip. I'm like, that's a waste. I'm like, this is crazy. It was devastating. I don't like seeing that shit. So the quicker it gets kind of resolved and fast and quietly, the better it is for the industry, because you don't want to be known, the industry to be known for that.
Right. Well, just to play devil's advocate here, like when there's no doubt, when there's irrefutable evidence that this did happen with this individual, yeah, bam, bye, out. But there was also some other cases that like really never came to fruition, like what the truth was. And the sad thing about it is, and this is just from what I've read so far on multiple occasions, is why are some people getting the outs when the truth never came to the fruition, and why some people are still in the game. And
it's weird. It is weird because you do see people, and I'm not going to name drop because I don't really.
I don't want to either, but I kind of want to bring up.
You see people that have made it now to TV that had allegations, and you're like, where did those go? And then you see other people that had minor allegations that were off in the wind, like you said,
right?
And they didn't kind of get snuffed out. Other people were given second chances. I don't know if there was, things behind the scenes that we just didn't see or hear about. Whether it be
exactly
deals, whatever it is. I mean, there was nobody getting arrested. Nobody went into cuffs. Nobody got, jail.
No court, no nothing, no Nathan. Exactly.
But it still, again, opened your eyes of, what can and could be in a locker room and kind of what to look out for.
Sure.
And that's anywhere in the world. They just dropped the special today, I think, about Nickelodeon and all this.
God, I won't even watch that.
I can see, you got your Kill Your Local Pedophile shirt on there.
Right.
And, we see these
my biggest thing is despite who I am, a persecution complex always must be curbed. And I know I got one, so I know I need to curb it, because that was a big thing for me for just 2020 alone, with everything else I ran into, which is another story.
Yeah, and I mean, not for nothing, we hear about these things now quite often where these kind of investigative things have happened and they're going back in time with the scene shit from the 90s, 80s, 70s, whatever year it is. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Children have been, unfortunately, used and abused, it seems, since the beginning of time. And probably there's not just children, women too, by people of power. I mean, look what they're talking about, Vince and all of that. And that doesn't even involve children. That doesn't even involve children. That just involves, money, power, and just disgustingness.
And hunger. And yeah.
It sucks to see it. It's sad to see it. And it's just another, kind of realization that shit is really fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, like, you can pretty much, what you put away what you still can put away.
Yeah.
If it's still active. And unfortunately, history does repeat itself in the same way. But I mean, Marilyn, and another person under scrutiny who I'll still quote because it's true, Marilyn Manson said it best: times have not become more violent, times have become more televised. And the thing about it is, we the people, when we see something that that is malicious, we now have the sources to really decipher what is true and what's not. And that's what we need to do to take action. So that way history eventually won't repeat itself. I mean, I know it's a crapshoot in the grand scheme of things, but it's just still what we need to do. The work is never truly done.
It's true, and I mean, and that's coming from a guy that was like, well, back in that day, you didn't get canceled. Okay, first of all, so there was
No,
no
not really.
cancelization. You would just get like a stigma. You might get rumors. They might try to ruin your rep. But there was no cancelization. Marilyn Manson was one of those people, whether either you loved him, you hated him, they demonized the shit out of him.
Oh, sure they did.
And if he came out today with records, people would probably be offended and say he's insensitive. Same thing with Eminem. If Eminem dropped his album today, everybody would be offended and say, "No way, that's not acceptable." Half of the words he used are banned language today.
Yeah.
And that goes for wrestling too. If you watch any of those Attitude Era promos, most of that shit banned language today. You can't.
Man, I just watched the old Dudley Boys promo when Bubba Ray was talking on the crowd. Holy!
I mean, you can listen to Jerry Lawler talk about gold dust all day.
Oh my God, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
I mean, that wouldn't even fly close today. But they rode those boundaries and they rode them really close. Same thing with anything racial. They got right to the line as close as they could get, and they pushed it the envelope. But again, it was a different crowd, a different time of people. We had movies out there that were, we had things like Blazing Saddles and such when put out just for being humorous, and people didn't get offended over it. Today they would. They'd be like, that's offensive. Nope, we're not watching it. Nope, bye. See ya. Like, it was a different time period. Things weren't so offensive. People took jokes as jokes. This is a joke. Right. This is not supposed to hurt anybody. If I don't like it, then I'm not going to watch it. I don't need to go out of my way to try to get it banned in 100 states. And I think that is the major difference today. Things get canceled. People get canceled. People can, when they fall out of, favor, they can get totally wiped off the map, and nobody knows, oh, what happened to such? Oh, he, said whatever. And it's not just, it's anybody, high tier people, low tier people, celebrities. It takes one little thing, man, and everybody got screenshots and everybody got videos, and then everybody got a story. Like you said, not all the stories are true. We don't even know that. Some stories come out and they're for clout, unfortunately. Some stories come out just to bandwagon.
I don't know what I hate more, clout or cancel. I don't know what I hate more.
And that's the thing, and sometimes they're doing it for both. They're trying to get rid of one person just so they can be the dominant one. A lot of it, there's so much backstage politics, even in social media, that it's just wild. And social media isn't the greatest place to hang out. It's a very negative place, but in moderation, depending on what circles you keep, it can be a lot of fun. But again, It depends what your purpose is. I know people that that go on there just to promote their music or promote their art.
Right.
I like to promote a lot of the wrestling shows. I like to share the shows. Promote my own stuff, of course. I do a lot
I'm slowly getting back
stuff
into that. I just moved recently, and I'm slowly getting back into being more internally involved with any local events, whether it be music or wrestling. So that's something that will be more of an endeavor of mine in due time.
You said you're into the metal scene?
Yeah. During the time that Limitless did explode, we had a club that was by the Legion called 212, where they had a lot of free mail shows just for the hell of it. And then they just started doing $5 an entry. I'm like, yeah, cool. Somebody's going to spend at least $40 on a bar tab there. Charge them a $5 entry. I say, I'm all about it. And then there was a lot of things that happened in like Lewiston, Bangor, a little bit of Portland, but Westbrook really had a lot of heart and soul of bringing people together from all those different regions in just such a small spot that it just exploded everywhere else until the pandemic really hit, and we're slowly building shit back from there. And we're trying Sean Caron, who's another fan of ours, and Chris Cates have been trying to talk to Randy about doing like a local metal thing for Maine, along with Limitless as well. We've been I brainstormed stuff with him, and hopefully that can come to fruition with like within the next couple of years or so too.
Yeah, maybe even like an outdoor show somewhere with like bands playing.
We know people who want to host it too outdoors.
Yeah, but then you got you can get people that have booths, man. They can like sell stuff. Our Maine's very free. You could get probably dispensaries that will back that kind of thing up. I mean, there's a lot of options out there.
Like there's so many people in that scene already there. That's why it would be so good.
That would be cool because the crowd's kind of the same. I was into metal a long time ago, actually. They used to run, I don't know if you probably remember, but Rockstar Energy used to run shows like every summer.
Oh, yeah, Taste of Chaos. I remember that shit.
Well, I used to go to that like every year. I saw Manson, I saw Korn, Zombie, all these guys. Back in the day. Now, shit, I can't even. Concerts are expensive and hard to get to. It's tough.
It depends on what you're looking for, though. That's the thing about it.
It does. But
like nowadays, a show that I go to that's sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, compare the prices of what I went to then compared to now, it's like $1,000 difference.
Oh my god, yeah.
But like you said, there's ways of going to local stuff, and that's what I do think I like. The appeal of local wrestling as well. And not that I'm even cheap. It's that it's not an arm and a leg. WWE charges you an arm and a leg, and you can't even see it. You're still far away from that ring. You might as well be at home. I mean, I spend my money fine. If I want to spend $60 on a ticket, cool. Well, guess what? At least I know I'm going to be at the front row of that seat with VIP passes if I'm spending that. If I'm buying front row, I'm going to get front row. And Limitless, very hard to get front row. Front row sells out.
Oh, my God. Like 3 minutes that the whole front row sold out as soon as Randy dropped the ticket link. And I messaged him like, that's got to be a fucking record.
Yeah, it's quick. And, I love to see it. I've gotten lucky one time we got in there and got one. But every time I get general, and if you get general, it still isn't bad. Just get there early and you can kind of like sit second row. But there really isn't a bad seat in that house. I've sitting in the way back. I've stood up where, over near the bar. That's another great spot.
That is like our designated spot there when we can too.
Though, but I was there one time with you guys, and you can see everything though. And I'm like I said, it's a very nice venue because of that. There's no really obscurities there. There's nothing, blocking views. And the ring's nice too. The ring is viewable. Some rings are too high, too low, and the seats don't match up. Not there. Definitely not there. And there's no cage, which is nice.
Yeah, it's like we don't even need one at this point. I mean, Let's Wrestle is definitely hit the mark when they got a cage, but I've seen like nowadays, like in an indie scene, a cage is hit and miss, more miss than hit, for that very reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it will be. I would like to see more collabs like that. I think, bringing more. I think it's a good way to get more fans back into wrestling. I think, a lot of fans that dropped out in the 2000s, early 2000s, if they actually saw a Limitless show or saw an indie show, I think they would bring them back to that nostalgia. It wouldn't be this cringe of watching TV wrestling and seeing guys that they used to watch still wrestling old. You would see a whole new generation of people,
I know.
And I always urge people just give it a chance. Even if you go out there once, if you hate it, you hate it. You lost $10. If you don't, if you love it, hey, you found something. But so your shirt, Kill Your Local Profile. I've seen you sell those shirts.
Yes, I do. I've been doing this for about 7 years now. Come July, that's what it will be. But yeah, I've been selling shirts and later evolved into small little vinyl stickers, koozies, and hoodies. And it has been going back into like new merchandise, but the profit of it has been going to help rehabilitate sexual assault victims. And when I spread the word out through the metal scene and like other wrestlers start getting interested in that, it really took on. The big push in wrestling that I got before I even went to a Limitless show is when New Jack got one from me after his Dark Side of the Ring episode. And when that took off, boy, did that take off. Holy crow.
Yeah, I could imagine. But I mean, that's right up New Jack's alley. He wasn't about all that. And,
Yeah,
but yeah,
well, that shirt that you see him posing with, that was the one that I sent him.
That's impressive, though. New Jack was he was a rare character because he was like, I think he was feared among a lot of people. A lot of people thought he was crazy, but that wasn't the case. He was really smart.
New Jack was one of the smartest people I talked to.
I was lucky enough to you get curious, right, online. You start to message wrestlers. You might message big wrestlers. 90% of the time, they ain't hitting you back.
Yeah, New Jack hit me back. For better or worse. He talked to anyone.
He hit me back, and we'd be talking for like 5-10 minutes once in a while. I mean, he used to. A big thing for him, because we're in the show, was he was very anti Jerry Lawler because of his stint in '93 and the sexual assault accusation. He had no love for him at all, and we would make jokes. I will be honest. He would send me some jokes sometimes and shit but he was not a fan of him. Him and Sabu, they went hard on Jerry when his son died. I kind of felt bad for him for a minute, but I get it. I mean, if what they were saying is even true and what has happened is true, and who knows now with everything that's come out.
Well, here's the weird thing about that. It's funny that you bring that up. After New Jack received my shirt, he went on a podcast with that. There was an article. Actually, hell, I'll send you the link for it because I still have this message from New Jack. And it was the link to this. But what had pretty much had happened, according to this article, where are you, New Jack? Where are you? There you are.
See, and I think the story...
His wife still has his account, so I talk to Jen every now and then.
Yeah.
Let me copy this link real quick. There you are. Yeah. Here's the article that he told me about. Like, as soon as he got that shirt for me and did that podcast, sent me the link right away. And apparently there was information about Jerry Lawler that later disappeared on him, and the article was covering that, and New Jack was explaining that to me too.
And see, when the shit dropped about it all, I was like, what the fuck? Because here's me now. I'm going back 10 years, 93. I was a big WrestleMania 9. Around that time, I was really hyped. I was about 10, 11 years old, really into wrestling. King of the Ring happened for the first time. I was really into that. When Bret Hart he won, Jerry the King Lawler came out and just beat the piss out of him. I couldn't have been happier. And I had never seen Jerry the King Lawler. I had never watched NWA. I knew nothing of it. I was very WWE only. I watched only a little WCW, I'll be honest. I didn't get around much.
Yeah, I got into WCW shortly after the NWO formation.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, I watched a little bit of the old stuff, just I was a fan of their Halloween Havocs and stuff.
Yeah,
but I didn't really start watching until that NWO stuff. But so 93 rolls around, and I become a big Lawler fan. Survivor Series is in Boston, and that Halloween, I want to beat Jerry the King Lawler. So I have, my mom made me this beautiful Jerry the King Lawler costume. It was on point, looked perfect. I go to the show. He ain't there. They pulled him from the car. Now they got HBK in there, which is fine. I like Shawn Michaels, but I was bummed. I found out about around that time, my mom told me, hey, you remember that show? I was like, yeah. He's like, the guy that, you dressed as, he got arrested for a sexual assault on someone. I'm like, what?
No shit. Wow. That time you were supposed to go to that show. That's what had happened, why he wasn't.
And she was like, yeah, that's why he wasn't at the show. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's why HBK was there. And since I heard that, I'm just like, it's just always left a sour taste in my mouth. And I'm like, he's one of the people. I'm like, why the fuck is he still on air? Why was that never brought to light, justice, or anything? Like, who the hell paid that to get swept under the rug?
Right.
And again, like, it just always left a bad taste in my mouth, especially because it affected me as a kid. You know, like, I watched it, I was looking forward to it, and I find out it's because, you know, it's not an injury, it's not something say because y'all got arrested for assaulting a young girl. It's like, what the fuck? But yeah, you know, that, and then me and New Jack talked about that actually a lot. He was one of those people who was vocal and open, and you know, but that's what I mean. That's kind of what ECW brought to the table. I feel raw, open people. It brought in real people. It took away the movie. It took away the actors. It took away the movie star status, and it brought in real motherfucking dudes and girls that were here to work this industry. And it showed another side of wrestling that, you know, it's hard work to get from the bottom to the top. And that's what ECW did. I mean, they were running little ass shows, and they made it to one of the, you know, still talked about today, best hardcore wrestling promotions ever.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. And oh man. And then you look at deathmatch wrestling now, or hardcore wrestling now, and it's just like, what happened? Like Japan at least has some authenticity going on right now with very little bit of drama. But what you hear now with like CZW and XPW, which I will not pay attention to because I'm very anti Raw Black.
I went to it.
I have
I'll be
no
honest,
love for Raw Black.
I went to his first show back. I was really interested to see what the hell this would be all about. And I have to say, I don't know if he didn't know the laws or didn't know what, but why the fuck do you put an XPW show in New York when they have a no blood law? That's just stupid.
Oh, no shit, really?
Yeah, so like Schlack comes in there, he starts bleeding right off the bat. Commissioner just stops the match. Match is over. All done.
Wow.
As soon as you're bleeding, they stop it in New York. It was stupid, and it was a lot of money. But yeah,
even
I mean, I never was a
GCW nowadays doing shit in New York. They still stop it.
GCW doesn't. They do, but their New York shows are a little bit different. It's not like their Jersey shows. It's more wrestling than like they don't bring out glass or anything.
Wow.
But New York has one of the high because they still have they have an athletics commission you have to go through, and some states do. But New York has a no blood law because of the AIDS and all that stuff that came through. And hepatitis too was another big one. So once bleeding happens, they'll just stop the match and it's over. So it's very hard to get hard when you got people that are known to bleed to fight. It's like, this ain't happening. But yeah, you know, XPW back in the day, it was okay. Again, I was an ECW guy. I liked Paul.
Yeah, me too.
He did. I liked Sabu, Rob Van Dam, New Jack, you know, the Dudley Boys. I liked all that shit.
Me too.
What they have today for hardcore, I don't find it hardcore. It's either, like you said, it's either bullshit, whatever's on TV, because it's hardly using anything valuable of weapons, or it's deathcore blood matches that people are just cutting each other.
Yeah.
You know, glass tube after glass tube after glass tube. And yes, there's a market for it and there's a place for it, but when you see a whole show dedicated to it, it's like,
yeah,
a little hard.
I'm partial to what Mick Foley does say about light tubes, but at the same token, the use of it is gratuitous.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you can do it and do it right, it should be done though.
Right.
It should be done for the most dramatic reason or most dramatic pop. It shouldn't just be done just to be done. Just because, we're going to use light tubes because we're doing a hardcore match. Doesn't have to be. It's not a necessity.
Right. I mean, if you're doing that much excess, have it for the final of a tournament of death or whatever death match tournament would be, and then find something new later.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, like the dark side of the ring, it kind of changed my whole perception. When that Nick Gage episode came
out, oh my god, yeah,
it changed shit. I'm like, you know, someone's gonna die in there for no reason, and I've already seen somebody die for no reason. You know, I was watching when no one fell. You know, somebody died for no reason. I don't want to see anybody else die for no reason in the ring. Like that's just, you know, that's not what it's about. And so it always makes me nervous, especially when you got, you know, it doesn't matter who you are. Injuries happen, accidents happen. But they're like I said, some hardcore is fine. I've watched some GCW shows that have been great. GCW, they've been. I feel like they've gotten better blend now that they've gotten more legit wrestlers too. That they've gotten bigger. They're not just a hardcore brand. They've, when they did the New York show and they did the Hammerstein there,
right?
They brought in different wrestlers. They brought in, more authentic wrestling people than just hardcore guys. And it's going to be, like I said, I think they're trying to clean up the image a little bit as far as, what they can actually succeed. Because, value-wise, some of their shows are just as good as AEW, if not better.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when CZW did like the best in the world tournaments, and whatever CZW is doing right now is like, whatever.
Oh, CZW, yeah, I don't really watch.
It's kind of painful death, but GCW is sort of doing that early thing too, where they have one focus on like athleticism and innovation like that, and then the hardcore stuff is saved for later, and that's kind of what I'm liking to it. It's really trying to hone it to the T of how they're going to be authentic and in which way.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a kind of fine blend because you don't want to cut out all the hardcore because then you're going to lose the original GCW fans, people that used to go there for that.
Right, they're just really separating it for the right thing to be showcased at the given moments.
Yeah, and you'll get that blend of fans that I think are there for a little bit of everything. I'm really excited to see this Josh Barnett show. They got Masha Slamovich going up against Shayna Baszler. That's huge.
Holy crow! That's a match made in heaven right there.
I mean, talk about cross branding, like this is like a first ever because WWE guys really don't go anywhere.
Well, right, because and the fact that Triple H is allowing a little bit more of that is great. Like when he had like TNA champs entered the Rumble and stuff, that was fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, and you couldn't ask for a better person to go up against. I mean, Masha is one of the best.
I love Masha.
I've seen her in Beyond. I've seen her in. She's even been in Limitless up in Herman. She wrestled, all the way up there. And then the next day, she was in Jersey wrestling. It was wild.
Well, she does not stop. Yeah, she just doesn't.
And to see this match, I'm really excited for that one. I'm probably more excited for that, honestly, than anything on the Mania card. I'll be honest. The fans kind of ruined it for me. I feel like once everything started to play out and I saw all the negativity over main events and this and that, it's just like,
Wow. Yeah. Like I state the worst wrestling page for social media is anything AEW. I cannot stand any fan base AEW page because yes, I get why there is some criticism on who's getting pushes or not. But for God's sakes, when you make a business move, when you're getting all these leagues and having to do crossover, there's going to be areas of opportunity regardless, and a lot because you're dealing with a lot. And nobody has really done it like Tony Khan has.
No, he hasn't. And I mean, Tony Khan, though, like I said, I mean, I'm all for criticization too. He's not perfect.
Sure.
He is. And some people I've talked to, they've said it's been very disorganized. Other people have said it's been
Which it has, yeah.
And it all, I guess, depends on what you're doing there. When I talked to Jimmy Jacobs, he loved it there. He says it's amazing there. And he's coming from WWE. You know what I'm saying? It's totally different ballgame. He's not being micromanaged. Somebody's not watching him 24/7 do his job. There's more freeway and lenience, and you can see that through wrestlers' happiness.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not laissez-faire, but you have more freedom and you don't have to walk on eggshells.
My major thing with AEW, I think, and it has nothing to do with the actual wrestling. It has to do with when there's these internal issues, how fast they get online and just like a fire. And it's like, okay, first of all, nobody needs to know all this insider information. Not the casual fan, definitely not.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just Raw shows what wrestling, how bad it can get and be.
Well, not only that, you have like a lot of reporters on stuff who just used to be like these rogue dirt sheet guys and who will have their own websites for strictly the dirt and the spoilers, like Steve Gerwick, for instance. I used to read a lot of his stuff. And with Dave Meltzer gaining a little bit of a shine, he seems to have a habit of that. That's just from my perspective. But that's the problem. You have a lot of people who are in professional positions who still have their rogue tactics.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it kind of like, I mean, the dirt sheets back in the day were kind of interesting because, first of all, shows weren't run as much and as often, and there wasn't as much running, and then the internet wasn't as viral, so you would get a hold of these reports or whatever, and you might talk about among your local friends, or you might go beyond that, but it didn't start really. The internet brought it to the next level where people would start going and talking about it. And then even after that, still it kind of stayed to local groups and chat rooms, Yahoo chat and AOL chat and old school shit like that. And now it's just forget about it. If it's out there, it's out there. It's already on X, and somebody's already posted, and then 100 people have shared it, and we don't even know if it's true yet. And everybody's already fighting over it. And then what agitates me is you can tell that the wrestling promotions will start to scramble real time to change things, to change whatever's being told. And it's like, oh, this isn't how it's supposed to be done. This isn't right. It's like, I miss the old kayfabe days where we didn't know what the hell was going on.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I like to know stuff, obviously, but I also like to just not know stuff. And it's kind of cool. But yeah, that's the only thing I do. I have an issue. Like the whole thing with, CM Punk and all that, it kind of just left a sour taste. It's like all this dirty laundry being aired on social media that not about the wrestling. It's all the backstage shit that shouldn't be out there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and honestly, besides, I still want to know kind of what happened with Cody Rhodes too. I know a lot of it.
Something else happened with Cody that I don't know about. I haven't been following that.
No, I mean leaving AEW. I mean, I know a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of it had to do with he wanted his damn name. And he was paying every time they called his name out. He was having to pay Vince McMahon money.
Right.
And he would never have the legacy that his father had. He would never be able to use that name. So I get all that, but I was just, I always wondered if something else happened unprofessional or not, because, he kind of turned pretty fast. One minute, he smacks some Triple H statues. The next minute, he's freaking kissing his boots. And it's like, okay, what the fuck did I miss here? But, it is also business, and business is business. Sometimes you go just where the money is,
Yeah. And Cody has, as much as I can appreciate the work he has done, Cody has just always been that one dude who has just been a filler for me, like wrestling wise. I do not know why. I have enjoyed matches he's been in, yes, but it's just like
I haven't.
I've never been like really feeling him. It's just like I remember when he came to Ring of Honor, was Ring of Honor champ, and bought out like Bernard the Business Bear. I'm like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not, and people will shit on me for it, but I'm not a fan of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, never been.
Something about him just screams to me mid card. He would make a fine IC. He'd make a fine IC champion. He'll make a fine something, but not for nothing. Dusty Rhodes was a great wrestler, but he wasn't champion. He wasn't a champion. He was actually a filler wrestler. He came in as a mid card, a tag wrestler. He came in and did his thing, especially in WWE. He did more in other promotions, but he was also booking in other promotions. His brother, he did okay. The Natural wasn't really that good, but he got famous from Goldust. But that wasn't his idea. That was somebody else's. Somebody else made him do that. He went into it, and he came out being kind of a celebrity out of it. But again, he was a mid-card celebrity. He never held world champion status. He was IC champion.
And that would have been a gimmick that would have never got top status. Never.
No, it wouldn't even last today. It wouldn't even work. And so when I saw, Cody come in, and even when he played Stardust, I always just thought, this is a mid-card guy. And, I was happy for him when he did it, and he made well into Japan, and he went elsewhere, and he kind of, went and did his kind of rounds, and he was doing the indie scene, and he was making a name. And I was really kind of happy for him when he did All In and All Out and all that. And he was with those guys and the Young Bucks and this and that. I'm like, okay, maybe, he's changing a little bit. And then I saw him wrestling. I'm like, it's the same Cody Rhodes. I'm still bored.
Yeah.
I was happy that he said he was never going to go for the world title again, which means he wasn't going to put himself forward. You know,
Right, that was a smart move.
he was going to let other people go for the title, and then all of a sudden he captures their secondary title. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? I mean, what's the difference?
Right.
And now he's in WWE, going after all the gusto again. But he, that's just one of the things. Again, I don't watch a lot of, unfortunately, after Bray passed, a lot of the storylines and stuff for me have just not been there.
They suffered greatly.
And I just don't watch a lot of it. A lot of it just doesn't interest me. I mean, the matches are okay. Some of them are fine. But to get invested into the story itself and to see why, it's just very hard.
Like, you'll never see Seth Rollins beat Tyler Black ever again. You'll never see it.
No. There's a lot of things you're never going to see again. And that's the thing. They've changed. And it's like, even when Roman loses eventually, what goes on after that? Where does Roman go from there? I mean, now that he's lost, he'll be nothing again. And they built it up so high that he can't really lose. Like, what are they going to do? And they've done this, before. And again, it's just the way WWE is. They're a mega giant company. I get that. They're not just trying to appease one or two people or a 50-person demo or 100. They're trying to feed, millions of people. They have, 100 million subscribers now on YouTube. It's only like 10 channels to have that. Their fan base is worldwide. So, I mean, they just throw out these things, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it pisses people off, it does. But as long as like 60, 50, I would say even 55% of the people are with it, they'll go with it.
Exactly.
They look for that.
Beckons the question. That pretty much beckons the question: who would be next? Who would be the next person to go after, like, the bloodline ends and all that? Who can make a credible impact as like a brand new main eventer? And for the longest time for me, I thought it would have been Tommaso Ciampa. I really thought it would have been.
He had all the right stuff. A lot of
hurt.
Well, that was the injury. And a lot of those NXT guys and girls I thought had it and were going to take it to the next level. And then when they got there, they just kind of didn't get the pushes that I thought they deserved. Even Asuka, she was so dominant on the NXT roster, but when she went to the main roster, she would struggle for like 2 years before she would see anything decent. It was hard to watch. And again,
you know what's kind of funny? Like, even Goldberg, which gave praise to Asuka for shattering his record, still did not get the big push that she deserved. That's the thing that baffles me about all that.
Yeah, and I mean, you have a legend, a WWE legend, who, is coming out and saying this, and it's just still like, oh, and then they kind of just jobbed her out for a while, or tagged her up with other Asian people, which, again, is kind of what WWE does. They do a lot of stereotypical shit, which, again, goes back to the old days of the way they used to do things, when you used to have people literally named Kung Fu Naki. Like, I mean, I don't know how they would get away with it, but they did, Now today, if they called somebody Kung Fu Naki and he was Asian descent, it would all be over with.
Oh my God, yeah. Or Jimmy Wang Yang.
Yeah, I mean, even what they wanted to do with that Ali dude, they wanted him to play a hardcore terrorist, and I mean, it was after a bombing, I think, a London bombing. He was like, "No, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do it," and he quit.
What the heck was his name? Muhammad Hassan, that's his name.
Yeah, and
the thing that's even fucked up about that is he's Italian. He's not really Arabic.
He's Italian school teacher.
Oh,
he teaches school too, yeah. And they wanted to play this like dangerous terrorist, and they wanted to and it was right after the bomb, and he was like, "No, the real world heat that I will get, it's not worth it." Like, no.
Yeah, he would just get canceled. He would get killed.
Holy shit. So I mean, this was after 9/11. I mean, somebody would have attacked him. Literally, fans would have attacked him. I mean, things, and that's the thing. Wrestling always, has followed that line, but WWE's always kind of pushed it. I was telling somebody, they used to, the whole thing with Sergeant Slaughter versus Hogan, they really pushed, the first Gulf War to the max and used it. in their storyline for wrestling. They used a real life war. And they made Iraqi enemies, and they made Iraqi, wrestlers. They changed Iron Sheik from, to another person. They brought all
the
these
Ayatollah, I think.
Yeah, and they did all of this shit, and it's like looking back at it, it's like you got like right into politics and just threw it right in there and just didn't even care. It's wild. Which you couldn't do today. There would be, backlash one way or the other.
Right. Yeah. Funny how we segued into Asuka about like some of the worst storylines that would be by consequence today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of like what I like about the indie scene. They don't get it as far into depth as that. They keep it very kind of general and more relatable. The characters are more relatable. Things have kind of toned down. You don't got these weird, larger than life characters anymore that wrestling once had. Now you got normal people kind of just that are wrestlers. That's how I describe it. Because back in the day, you would look at these guys in the ring and you couldn't picture them doing anything else. You couldn't picture them working at a library or working as a teacher or a janitor. They looked like savagery. They were just, they look like beasts. Now, you see them and they're like, oh, he looks like, he works over here, and I've seen him work here. And it's like everybody kind of looks normalized. But back then, you wanted to look gross. You wanted to look nasty. Like the Bushwhackers, people like that, Nasty Boys. You wanted to look a certain way. And wrestlers weren't always about being fit. You had people like King Kong Bundy. You had people like even Haystacks Kowloon that was way far from in shape that would get out there and do, great wrestling, funny shit.
Yeah. A friend who passed away, his grandfather was Man Mountain Mike.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. I was acquaintances with Man Mountain Mike's grandson.
That's fun. That's fun, and that's where I started watching wrestling. I actually just went to a show not too long ago. It had like Little People. It was all Little People show.
I saw that shit. I was like, what the hell is going on in some of those clips?
It brought it back to like 98, and like nobody gave a fuck. Like it was totally off the hook between what was being done and said. But like everybody was about it. Everybody was just laughing, enjoying it. Nobody was like getting heated or mad, and it was really weird to see. Actually, I'll be honest, because I haven't been in a situation where there's been such like use of vulgarity or things that aren't politically correct, where people aren't interjecting.
Right.
On the internet, somebody says something. Yeah, because on the internet, somebody says something, you got somebody that's going to shoot them down right away with a comment. Oh, but yeah, everybody just watched and listened, and nobody said anything. And it was just, but yeah, it was wild. I mean, they did a strip show and intermission. It was nuts. It's not your typical wrestling show. But it did bring it back to some that I don't get to see often. And that's, wrestling can be fun and just wild.
Right.
But, hey, so like, who are you liking at Limitless right now? Who's been your favorite champ that you've seen so far?
Wow. Well, right now I will say for champion, I came into the scene when Alec Price was still champion, and to this day, he's probably had the most prominent run because he didn't overcompensate himself match after match after match. He did bring more to the table when like as matches grew on for him, but he never burned himself out. He never got gratuitous, anything like that. Yeah, and it's sad because like when Beat became champion, I definitely would say I was very happy because Beef was like one of the first wrestling friends that I met in Limitless. But a lot of those matches, like he was very unequally matched with anybody he came. Like when Timothy Thatcher came and he broke a rib during that match, and changes had to be made, which sucked because Beef does work his ass off and gets it while he can. I think that was one thing that kind of derailed the title run for a bit. But yeah, but it still didn't stop him from wanting to improve as a wrestler, thankfully. But as far as a consistent champion with consistent matches, Alec Price has been my favorite champion for Limitless.
Nice, nice. I got in at a time when AG had just been signed to WWE. So he had to relinquish the title, and the title went up for grabs. It went into the Vacation Land Cup. Winner would get all. And, we would see Christian Casanova grab that belt. He won it.
That's right.
And then,
that was a good run, too.
He got called up, too. And, he gave one more challenge. And I have to say, one of my favorite champions is who beat him. And that would be, Red Death. Garcia, Daniel Garcia was just, I don't know if it was because he was pandemic champion, held it down for that era, or he was just, he was a different kind of heel. You had so many different heels there. You had people that heels that you could almost laugh at that point. You had BRG and those guys and Mac Daniels, making a mockery and stuff. But
that's why I love Conor Murphy.
Yeah, and then you had, Mason, who was a different heel. It was this
Mason is probably my favorite heel to this day right now.
He's sick and twisted, though. And then
he's the perfect heel for today. Perfect.
Oh, he is. He's a great heel. I love him. And I love that they, brought him in with Holiday, and they've been doing that and everything that they've done with him. But then you had Garcia and Blackwood together, and they were a different heel. They were a different heel. And he was kind of whiny almost, kind of stompy, pouty, but boy could he wrestle.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Ricky Smokes. Ricky Smokes gives me that old school Gino Hernandez vibe. And I think he could do a lot more with it now that he's getting a bigger singles push right now.
Yeah, they kind of broken him out of that trios. Now he's going to be facing Aaron Rourke in upcoming shows, and I've seen him, he's another one. I've seen all these kids grow, like Alec Price. I remember his first years.
Oh my God.
Watching these people just kind of evolve and grow, like Becca, too. I remember seeing her pre-pandemic. She came out basic Becca. She had a little scrungy squad going, and now today she's making pop music worldwide. It's like she's blown up in, 5 years flat. It's wild to see the progression these kids make. But Ricky Smoke's another one. I remember seeing him at a Chaotic show, and he was doing this thing, and I said, he has something about him. He started making his rounds. I saw him in Dedham. I saw him. Then I started to see him up in Limitless, and he was, like I said, with the trios. But like you said, he could do more, and he does. He has that poutiness that kind of.
Yeah.
But again, he can wrestle. He can get in there. He can go round after round.
The match I saw him work with Tommy Dreamer in Stanford at EWA was great.
Yep. Yeah. That's another great promotion. Maine has a lot of great wrestling, and it's starting to, I feel like, take off. For a while there, it was kind of just basically almost 2 or 3, major promotions running out there. You got Now we're out there, few others, but EWA coming back. MPW just started. They've been looking pretty good. We've been talking to
MQW after Woundsocket is really trying hard too.
Yep. So I mean, it's really becoming a nice scene. All these companies that are out there, but yeah, that's the thing. These guys and girls, like I said, one day they're kind of figuring out their gimmick and figuring out themselves. And then once it kind of clicks, once they figure out what they have to do, man, it's takeoff. It's off to the moon. They're off. I mean, look at, like I said, Daniel Garcia. He's another one. Won that Limitless title, off to the top. Almost anybody that's touched that title has been to a bigger or better promotion. The WWE.
Exactly.
They've been to Japan. Even Rip Bison, he took that and he went to Japan. And he's back to Japan
even if it was for a hot second.
Yeah, I know. He was only there for a second. They pulled like a WrestleMania 9 on him. But Shannon Thomas is great too, and he's another one. He's a tremendous wrestler.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Channing. He does a lot of shows around my area, and His latest transformation into world class has just been something, just both funny but very, very entertaining and refreshing. Bacabella by his side, great mouthpiece.
Oh, Bacabella is hilarious. And well, the thing about Bacabella is, I remember running into him one day when I was just chilling in the bar in the Legion, and it's just like, hey, how do you want help tonight? He's like, whatever you throw at me, I can deal with. So do what you got to do. So it's funny that you bring up Bacabella because I'm gonna try to find a way to get to the bar and just like I'm grabbing off my I'm knocking shit over too. I figured I'd just like throw some shit at him when the opportunity comes. Like I saw the Complete Idiot's Guide to Pro Wrestling. I'll just probably throw that at him, see if he can use that in a promo because I love doing crowd interaction too. So be got downstairs like, hey, there's got to be a way we can implement this in a promo for me to piss you off with.
Oh yeah. And he's a great. I've been all the way to Jersey to see Bacabella wrestle. He's one of those wrestlers I'll follow because he's very entertaining, but he's also like a really good person. Outside of the ring, in the ring, he's a really decent person. And anybody that's worked with him will say the same. That they love the guy. But man, he brings it back too, and his promos are wild, and the things he says is wild, and things he can come up with are wild, and I gotta appreciate that. You gotta love it. And again, it's a lost kind of thing. There's not a lot of managers on the scene, so when you see these managers, it brings it back. Because when we were kids, there was a lot of managers, tons. You had Bobby the Brain and his family, Jimmy Hart and his, Mr. Fuji, all these people. And now it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, a few people here and there, but there's not a lot.
It's funny that you're talking about a heel faction because we, our little section of the Limitless crowd. This was actually coined by Papa Tim, one of the fans. I don't know if you know who that is. He's usually the guy who, you know who that is.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, we're starting a new faction on the manager, and since we're by the bar line, we're called the Line. And if anybody's not with us, to the back of the line. I'm like, I actually really like that.
That's fun.
Yeah. So I had to be the bad luck follower of the group. My friend Sean was the wild card. He had a couple other tech guys. I'm like, this is actually a really good idea.
That's fun though.
Yeah.
No, it does. It's a way to do things. Have you ever thought about getting in the ring yourself and going?
I have before, and I will never do it again. I did it when I was 19 years old. I'm 35 now, but I was doing that before I was getting into college, and it kind of fucked up college for me because I'm not going to throw this name out just because he's another one who needs to get blacklisted, and there's people who were victimized by him that I'm not going to throw his name just for their safety too. But the guy who trained me ended up being a really bad dude. And not only that, he tried to push this like little backyard league into something bigger with money and stuff from other businesses that he had and tried to make it hardcore, just like say fuck everything to the rules. And people got hurt because of it, including me. I got pretty much Joey Mercury'd in the face, and I have a concussion history like no other, just like within a year and a half of trying to do that shit in Balance College. So as somebody who did try to work, I was able to get licensed. But I would say unless you are trying to pursue something else, don't be a wrestler. Don't. Because you are going to screw it up by getting hurt. If you try to balance more than like a college degree in wrestling. Now I was trying to do both, and that was my problem.
Yeah, no, definitely. At 19, they wouldn't even take me in wrestling. Killer Kowalski told me I was too small. Sent me away. They sent me away. But I have done some trainings. I went to a couple of fantasy camps a couple of years ago. It's not easier at this age, but there is people out there that do it. I mean, people like Dylan Nix got a late start in the industry, and he's great. He does great out there. Even on the big scene, people like DDP have made fantastic livings out of starting late in wrestling. Wrestling is now it's at the pace you want to work it, but there is, you have to take it serious, and there is going to be injury risk involved. There is going to be a lot of time dedication involved, and you do have to make sacrifices. If you trying to start a family or do this and that, you're not going to have time to really pursue the fullest wrestling career. Now, if you're looking to just work, you have a couple of friends that are, maybe own a promotion. They're like, hey, we can use you, once in a blue moon if you're trained and you want to do that, by all means. And I say, hey, go for it.
Right.
That's your pace that you want. But if you're looking for that full, steady head-on pace, there's a lot of sacrifice in that, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, like I thought about like doing something KYLP related with wrestling, and then do a heel turn with Charles Mason and have it be like kill your local poor or something like that, and just do a turn on that, see how that would go.
He would rock that shirt, though. He really would.
I know Charles Mason is a really good dude. Really good dude.
He first grabbed my attention when he started his little the fight with Becker, and then Love Doug match, and he was just
amazing.
Yeah, like his facial expressions, the way he acts, and the things he did was just like, wow.
Yeah.
No one's doing that. No one's pulling that kind of heel work. Like I said, there's one way is, to get the crowd to hate you, but he's doing things with his, just facial expression shit that are like making the crowd go, what the fuck? What are we doing?
He has that Kubrick stare nailed down.
Like, I'll never forget the moment he sniffed the scrunchie and people were just like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And people were afraid of that promo because it was like so realistic, and he had that like literal face, like you said, that rich boy glare, and it's just like, wow, that's good acting. Like,
I just want to see how far he's willing to take it. I really do.
I think he could take it to the top. I mean, I've seen him in GCW. And
his House of Glory title reign was amazing. The matches between Loki and Ken Broadway, that whole spiel. Hell, the match he had with Alec Price was amazing.
Oh yeah,
amazing.
And I'll say this. I mean, I've never seen a bad Alec Price match. That kid delivers,
man.
He always delivers. He's one of the people that got me into, the indie scene. Again, I saw him at Beyond.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I actually first saw him, he was doing a promo. It was on Pandemic at the Dojo. He was like hustling CDs out the back of a car, and I heard him calling people buses and shit. I'm like, who is this kid? This kid sounds wild. I started to follow him, and I have to say he has one of the best theme songs on the indie theme song list of theme songs to have. It's by Apache, but
yep.
When that thing comes out, his energy would just come out. He'd be wild, like he'd just be going nuts before the match even began. I'm like so drawn in. I'm like, and he don't care. He wants the crowd to flip him off. He's just like, I'm just like, this kid's great. This kid's going places, and he has. He's been everywhere. IWTV champion and on. He's done amazing in a short period of time, and he's still, got a lot more to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So this is going to be, I think, an interesting title defense for, Channing. Channing has had,
right.
He's had some okay defenses. The opponents have been there. I'm not really a fan of JT Dunn. I think he's a great wrestler, but I also think that he's kind of a little bit past his due.
I'm like, how many more roaring elbows can you have for wrestlers? I mean, it's just like the Rainmakers.
Yeah, I thought Buffa should have been given the chance to fight Channing one-on-one. I believe that Big Buffa deserved that. He's been doing tremendous. He should have had a one-on-one match with Channing. Should have never been a triple threat. But either way, it was what it was. Channing came out on top. They gave another shot to Rip Bison. I mean, that's only fair, right? Again, Channing comes up. But again, that's Rip Bison. Rip is good. He's learned some stuff in Japan. But he's not Alec Price. He hasn't traveled where Alec has traveled. He hasn't wrestled where Alec has traveled.
I would love to see him win the title and have a rematch with Alec Price and see what he actually did learn in Japan. That's what I want to see.
Well, I mean, now he's over there. When he comes back, I'm sure we might see that. Because, I think Alec Price is going to give Channing Thomas a run for his money. And I'm a biggest Channing Thomas fan, but I'm also a big Alec Price fan, and just the numbers alone. Alec Price, he wrestles like no other that Channing has faced. I know they've squared off and beyond a little bit, but Alec has learned so much more since then. What it's going to come down to is, can Bacabella save Channing? And that's what will be it.
Or is JT Dunn going to get manipulated into screwing over Alec Price to get the belt?
That's try to do something there. You know, jealousy's a motherfucker in this industry. And when you see
that's kind of what I'm thinking.
You know, again, JT wants to be in that limelight. I'm sorry, bro. His time has passed. You know, he does good in chaotic. Well, he didn't win, but he does nice out there. And Limitless, I get it. He started. I get he was an OG there. I get he still has a lot to give, but I see a lot more better talent that deserve that number one title spot than him. There's a lot of young guys and girls out there that deserve a title. You're trying to say right now Mason don't deserve a shot over?
Oh my God, yes he does.
Over Dunn? Jesus, at this rate, even Love Dub deserves a title shot over Dunn.
Hell yeah.
He interjected himself. He came out, interjected himself. For some reason, Randy Carver gave the nod. But honestly, like I said, it should have been. And I interviewed Boofer, and I told Boofer straight to his face, it should be you versus Channing Thomas, one-on-one. No triple threat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean...
But, who knows what's going to happen? Because, Channing's back and forth to Germany and elsewhere. Alec Price might snatch this title from him. He might actually pull it off and become two-time Limitless champion. And I think, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if Alec comes out victorious.
Yeah, the truth is Alec loves it here, period. He loves it here.
Oh, he does. And they love him there. Alec's a funny story in wrestling. He always wanted to be this heel, this person that nobody liked. He'd come out and people would be booing him, and it was fine. It worked. And then one day, he'd start coming out. There was no boos. People were cheering this kid. And he's like, no, stop. And then slowly he starts embracing it. And he became a fan favorite just by being a good wrestler.
Exactly.
Putting on good matches. It didn't matter if he was heel or face. People were rooting for this kid.
You know what? Not as good, but I slowly started seeing that with Silas Young too.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody who I would like to see come over one more time, it would be him. Because I remember that one promo where he wasn't trying to be, he always tries like, I came to compete with the best. Now I'm here to learn with the best. I cannot remember which league it was for the life of me, but I'm like, all right, if that's the direction that guy's going with, I would love to see him come over to Limitless and showcase his skills in that way too. No,
most definitely. That's the coolest thing about Limitless. They can, they get talent. They get people. And it's an honor for those people to come to Limitless. It's an honor for them to come to me.
Yes.
The respect that Randy gets, is well deserved, but it's also, it's just a lot. But he's put on, great shows, one after another. It's been consistently great. There's never been a Limitless show I said, oh my God, he shouldn't have run that one. Like everyone, I went back and bought, shit ton of DVDs because I wanted to see the old ones.
Yeah, I need those so bad.
I've subscribed to IWTV just to kind
of...
I
need to just do that. I seriously do.
I buy them online because they're a little bit cheaper there than at the actual show.
Right.
But yeah, I've done and picked in some of these matches. You got people like Darby Allin and stuff like that. The people that have gone through there is just insane. I remember seeing Dan Hausen. He was another great one that come through there. Had a lot of fun with him. Then I faced Ava Everett. What a matchup those two gave. Ava's another. She's a great wrestler, and that's what Randy got up there too. He just never neglects the women's division. They always have fresh talent.
Yeah, man, poor Ava. I had a conversation with her prior when the flight lost all of her shit in when she was in Frankfurt. Oh my God, what hell she went through with that.
Yeah, it's sad to see and hear, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's first of all, I mean, especially when everything that you got that you need is in those bags. It's not stuff that, especially a lot of it's custom, so it's not stuff you can just buy on the fly.
No.
You need what's in your bags. But she's one of those people. I remember seeing her in Dedham, and watching her progress, and see her through art. Now she's with LSG. She really is progressing, and she's one of the people that I'm kind of dumbfounded. Like, why hasn't she been signed yet? Why isn't she on WWE?
Thank you. Thank you.
AEW? Why isn't she been on Ring of? Like, why are the people dropping the ball on Ava Everett?
Yeah, like she at least needs to be in Ring of Honor.
Right. I'm hoping in the next year she takes off and gets somewhere, because she really, really deserves it. She puts on great matches, whether it's singles, tag, intergender. She's very versatile. And what I love about Ava, she stays in character 99.99% of the time. Like,
I think I'm one of the only few people who got her to break character.
yeah, it would be hard to do. But yeah, most of the time she'll sit there, just even as a fan. But she's one of those heels that will come out during intermission, so she knows how to make money. That's the big thing. A lot of people that play the heels won't go out during intermissions and won't sell merch, and it's like, dude, you're losing the market. She will. She'll just do it nastily.
Here, I love it. I love it.
It's great.
Yeah, when her and Ricky together did that, I loved it.
Oh, they were great. They were great, and I'm looking forward to that match too. Ricky versus Aaron Rock. He's another one out of Creative Pro. Really has been making a name for himself in New England. He's been in Chaotic, been all around. Champion, holding titles. This is the future of wrestling right here. It's all happening right before our eyes. It's wild. But it's people like you to keep going and do what you do to keeps it thriving. Without fans,
I got 2 tickets, man. I'm like, I just got 2 tickets, and I'm trying to bring somebody who's never been to the event.
And that's it. You gotta, if you can do that, and that's the way you can do it. I mean, there's so many people out there that don't even know it exists, and if they knew, they'd be like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, exactly.
I got to bring one of my friends. He was an old wrestler. He had been wrestling in the early 2000s, took some time off. I got him to go to a Limitless show for the first time last year, and he fell in love with it. Now he wants to go, whenever he can get up there. He lives up in Maine. So, I love bringing new people to the scene as well. I love seeing people from other areas talk about it, like from other states. Because, you can watch, Limitless through IWTV. You can also, obviously there's a lot of people that will tweet the live events. I've done it even myself if I'm at home. I'll start tweeting results or tweeting what's going on. And so people will follow along with that. And I've gotten people, far in the country to be talking Alec Price and talking, Limitless Wrestling. I love seeing that because, it's not something, it's just something that it makes you proud. It's something that, I've been to that. I've seen that show. Like when they got into the magazine for, it's like, I don't know if it's top 10 or something, but they got in for being like a top attraction.
Yeah, I briefly recalled that.
And, that's just so cool because wrestling's wrestling. People think of it as a certain way. And it's like to see that as an actual national, attraction to the state, that's huge.
Damn, I don't know how many bowls I've gone through during this session, but damn.
I hear you. That's why I smoked the one infused blunt. This way I figured.
Yeah, my motor skills are shot to shit, so I don't roll. So, besides, I really like this piece that I got recently from one of my friends.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Plus the grinder too. One of my favorite metal bands, Rivers of Nile.
Oh, sweet. I love your weed up there. I'll drive just up there for the weed sometimes.
I know, right? Oh my God. Yeah, that's the other thing about events. Well, a lot of the times we would smoke with Beef after the show too. And I'm like, hey, I'll be like, hey, Beef, I got something for you. Or whoever wants to smoke. We tried smoking with Too Cold Scorpio, but it was just like, shit, it's snowing out. I'm parked in the ball field. It's still icy. By the time I get back, everybody will be kicked out of the bar.
You know what you gotta do is now that he's around, you gotta get Randy to get Matt Riddle up there, smoke with Riddle. I heard he can have good sessions prior. I actually know someone that smoked with him prior before a show. Did dabs with him. Kind of wild. But yeah, for some reason, well, Maine is Maine, but there's a huge price gap up there compared to Mass. Even on the medical side, it's just much cheaper and affordable. Especially me, I like to do a lot of concentrates, shatters, waxes, and the price difference is just like $80 to $100 differential every.
It's insane.
Same thing with the edibles. So I'll go to Maine. I'll make a day of it. I'll make a weekend out of it. I'll go up there, catch the show. Make sure I like a place in Lewiston. The guy over there, kid, he goes to Limitless shows. He does some of the cooking and the chef work up there. So he told me
about
I
know who you're talking about. That's one of my homies.
And I kind of just fell in love with the place, and I'll go all the way to Lewiston before, and then go off to Yarmouth every single time.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually lived in Lewiston for the last 4 years.
It's kind of scary as shit because
I hated it. Hated it.
No, not there. The day of the shooting, I was supposed to go there. I was supposed to be in Lewiston. Like I had plans to go to Maine. I had my friends were doing a video viewing of that Kill City Cup up in where was it? It was wasn't Yarmouth.
Falmouth?
No, it was more closer to Mass. Right next to it might even been in Geno's over there. In that general area.
Okay, like the Congress Street area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hold on, this thing is turned up. And so I was supposed to go out there, and something happened with the car, and I just didn't get out there. But if I had timed everything right, before I got over there, I was supposed to go to my spot and go and I chill out there for a couple. I go to the 2 dispensaries right across the street. Sometimes I go to the third one, depends. And I was just like, I was watching the day unfold, and I was like, holy shit. And I started making phone calls, calling all my friends, making sure everybody was okay.
That shit was 5 minutes right by my house.
Yeah, that's just scary ass shit. Like I said, when it's that close, and I've been through it. I lived through that whole marathon bomb. We had the bombers in our town, police chasing them. We were on lockdown, and like I said, that lifestyle is scary when you don't know what the hell's going on or what you're up against. And it started to affect the wrestling. Show started getting canceled again, and I hate to see it. It was the right call, obviously, for safety.
Oh, it had to be. Like Randy did not want to do that. I was messaging him like, dude, I mean, I'm really going to I wasn't even going to go to that Limitless show because I was supposed to host a Halloween metal show right in Lewiston that weekend too. Like I had a costume all decked out and everything. And I'm just like, and I talked to the booker. I'm like, look, Rick, I don't think anybody's going to want to go out. Dude still hasn't been caught, and everyone's still healing. They just don't want to do it. I ended up in Harmony that night at a little indie show there. But yeah, the other thing that was really fucked up about that was I work for the lottery. And part of our job is to put up the silver and amber alerts when they come in from the state police. We had to do the one for the shooting.
Oh man,
that was friggin' rough.
That's rough. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you never know. You don't expect it. Scary time. And again, anything that kind of affects wrestling, it kind of affects us all. Not just that, but the loss of life.
Sure.
I actually went out later that we went in November. Another place we like to go is to the LL Bean Center over there.
In Freeport.
In Freeport. So me and my wife go there, and we went out there, and they were doing the tree lighting, and the mayor of Lewiston came down. He said his words, and it was all kind of in memorial of that. Again, very sad, tragedy, life lost, and such. It's always sad. But it's even sadder when it affects people, like I said, like so close to home. As I know so many people in Maine, people were at that show. People were at that, driving here. People are going there. I'm checking on everybody that I know from Limitless. I'm like, okay, everybody safe, everybody accounted for. Because you just never know, you just never know, brother.
Never.
But, I do thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a blast. I love talking wrestling. As always, support indie wrestling.
Support indie wrestling.